Rishi Sunak's notice period isn't going very well, is it? On May 22nd, the Prime Minister called a general election despite heavily hinting that he would call a general election in the autumn. This is what he told staffers, reporters, MPs, colleagues. Everyone could go away and have their holiday and have nothing to worry about in the summer. More on that later. Former Prime Minister David Cameron even had to cut short a trip to Albania to fly back for the cabinet meeting about the election. They even put a massive welcome banner for Lord Cameron. It looks quite nice, so they must have been pretty miffed off the fact that he had to nip back home after an hour or so. Some party members didn't want him to hold a general election at all. Others were indifferent, others just wanted to end their suffering.
Yeah, now I'm panicking.
Yeah, don't panic.
No, I am, because I'm going to lose my job.
But he did it anyway. He stood in the rain like Ryan Gosling in The Notebook, and he went on a long speech how inflation was getting better, the economy was doing better, and how he was Mr. Furlough helping people during the COVID pandemic. But he didn't mention what he did during Partygate though. He could have told journalists outside to get inside the press conference room to avoid everyone getting wet, but he just wanted everyone to be as miserable as him. As Rishi Sunak got drenched and more desperate by the second, the new Labour anthem, "Things Can Only Get Better," blasted in the background.
Is looking to dominate the 21st century by stealing a lead in technology. And migration is being weaponised by hostile states to threaten the integrity of our borders.
For a start to a general election campaign, it was possibly the worst thing you can imagine. Just hapless, behind in opinion polls, and drenched in rain in an iconic image. What could possibly go wrong from here? Well, a lot, actually. His MPs and even ministers were understandably quite miffed off the fact he called a general election so early. Steve Baker, a minister in his cabinet, was so surprised that he called a general election that he said he won't be going on a campaign trail, instead he'll be going on holiday. To be fair to him, maybe it was a non-refundable holiday anyway. Polls at this stage had shown that the Tories were more than 20 points behind, but Rishi Sunak was keen to show that he could win the election. What you need for a general election campaign is for everything to run smoothly. Hours into the campaign, it got off to a terrible start. A Sky News reporter and his TV crew all got escorted off the premises during a campaign rally, and it was all caught live on TV.
This is where the Prime Minister is going to speak in the next few minutes, and I'm being forcibly removed. We just simply wanted to have access tonight at Sky News, but unfortunately we're told that because there are pool arrangements in place, we're not allowed to be here. This is, by the way, what we're trying to film is the campaign event where the Prime Minister is due to speak in the next couple of minutes. It's in front of Conservative activists. It's essentially trying to get across the message that we had in Downing Street today.
You know, watching this video reminds me of another viral video.
Gentlemen, this is Democracy Manifest. Hey, chap over there, get your hand off my penis! This is the bloke who got me on the penis before.
Then, a day later in Derbyshire, he went to a warehouse and took a Q&A from workers. A lot of these workers were just people from the warehouse, but there's something fishy about one or two of them. Rishi Sunak looked across his audience and picked out this guy in the audience. This guy is Ben Hort-Evans, a local Conservative councillor, and he asked this question.
You've talked a lot about the economy, specific to everybody, cost of living crisis. Yep. What's been done and what sets you apart for the future to, benefit that, the pound in the pocket?
Then another Tory councillor, Ross Hills, then asked a question. After his lovely chit and chat with workers, Rishi Sunak went to a brewery in Wales. He sat down, looked around and asked everyone if they're looking forward to the Euros. You know, that tournament that Wales didn't qualify for because they got knocked out in the playoffs.
Are you looking forward to all the football?
Not so much my bag.
Well,
no, but that's because you guys aren't in it.
There'll be people coming. It'll be good.
Someone support England.
Some people will be supporting anyone that plays England.
But to be fair to Rishi Sunak, when England didn't qualify for Euro 2008, I still watched the tournament. I had a lovely old time. Some great games there. So after some quite notable slip-ups, just days into the campaign, he wanted just to have a little rest. He had a day off. Days into the campaign. You don't usually do that. I know Sunday is supposed to be the day of rest, but when it's a general election, it's 6 weeks and every day counts. But during his downtime, Rishi Sunak sat down and thought of policies that could galvanise and attract voters and ensure that people didn't switch from Tory to vote for Reform or Labour. So he announced a policy he would reintroduce national service for 18-year-olds. So instead of drinking cheap cider at a house party or playing Xbox all weekend, teenagers had to go into the military or work in civil resilience for a year. Now, this new policy, which was said to cost £2.5 billion, was largely dunked on social media.
We made it to the front line where we played a little game of bogeys.
Bogeys.
Bogeys!
Hey, over here.
Politicians hated it, Labour hated it, even military figures thought it was an absolutely ridiculous idea. The former head of the Royal Navy, Admiral West, said, "Anyone with the most basic experience of how much it costs and what it entails to turn a new recruit into someone that can usefully serve in our armed forces would not need a Royal Commission to tell them that the proposal as currently presented is utter nonsense." So the first week or so of the campaign for the Tories was shaky, so to speak. But then D-Day happened. Well, not actual D-Day, not the one that took place 80 years ago on the beach of Normandy. It was such a vital event in World War II. It arguably helped shorten the war, and then later helped win the war a year later in 1945. That's why it's so important to commemorate it. It's such a massive event, and the lives that were lost, the people who made the ultimate sacrifice, and you even had some soldiers who survived there in Normandy, possibly for the last time in their lives, for one last tribute. It's quite a prominent and quite poignant service. So why did Rishi Sunak leave it early? Why did he just get up and go? Why did he just leave David Cameron there? What was he playing at? Oh, he had to do an interview. And the interview slot that was offered was the one that the Conservatives, the government, offered ITV. What? What's going on? Now, Rishi Sunak did meet some veterans and he did go to the actual event, but he still left it early. There was plenty of events afterwards that all the other world leaders stayed there. Even the Prime Minister in waiting, Keir Starmer, went and he stayed and he spoke to world leaders. But Rishi Sunak left early for an interview. It's multiple weeks on, but I know he's apologised and everything. I still don't get it. I just don't. Why? It's like nipping out your mum's funeral to go for a job interview. And despite leaving for that interview, Rishi Sunak was still late.
Gosh, hello.
Good to see you.
Very nice to see you. Hey, sorry to have
Well,
kept
thanks.
you.
No, not at all. I know you've been in Normandy.
Yeah, it all just ran over. It was
course.
incredible, but it just ran over everything.
I'm sure it was
So apologies for keeping you.
No, not at all. I'm sure it was a powerful trip. I mean, so pertinent as well this year, you know, considering what's happened in Ukraine.
Yeah, which I haven't seen
you know,
President Biden's remarks, but I think that's kind of the echo, I think, what he
yeah.
said.
Did you get to meet any of the veterans, or were you?
Oh, no,
did you
gosh,
just
lots.
have to do the ceremonial?
Oh, lots. Over yesterday and
Okay,
today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've already spoke to almost everyone that was there.
And not only did the public give him a battering for it, his own ministers, his own MPs gave him a battering in the interviews. Penny Mordaunt, who was one time a Tory leader hoped for and probably will be after this general election is over, she even condemned it.
What happened was completely wrong, and the Prime Minister has rightly apologised for that. Apologised to veterans, but also to all of us, because he was representing all of us. I'm from Portsmouth. I've also been Defence Secretary, and my wish at the end of this week is that all of our veterans feel completely treasured.
But despite even Tory activists condemning him, there were some ministers that went out and actually supported him. What?
Can you understand why this doesn't make things better in some people's minds?
I think the Prime Minister quite rightly reflected on that and apologised for it, which I thought was smart of him to do the right thing to do and showed his intention. And as he says, actually in that actual clip, the entire event, and I was actually at them all, was absolutely remarkable. I mean, it was incredible to meet British veterans. The part that he now famously missed wasn't with the British veterans at all. He had met them all beforehand.
Oh God, is there any more? Oh, there's more. There's more. I've got a script here. I've listed all the stuff. Hold on a second. What have we got? Rishi Sunak was pressed on. Did you struggle, or did you have to give anything up when you were growing up? You know, to connect with the viewers. And he said, "Sky TV." This is what he said.
Sort of things had to be sacrificed.
Lots of things, right?
Can you give me an example?
All sorts of things. Like lots of people, there'll be all sorts of things that I would have wanted as a kid that I couldn't have, right? Famously, Sky TV. So that was something that we never had growing up, actually. But there's lots of things. But again, that's...
So Rishi Sunak missed out on some WrestleMania and new episodes of The Simpsons. But he still lived a life that not a lot of people in this country have. If you're not somehow aware, Rishi Sunak is not quite a man of the people. He hasn't got the common touch. He hasn't quite lived a working class background. He's just been filthy rich all his life.
Friends who are aristocrats, I have friends who are upper class, I have friends who are, working class, but I'm not working class, but I mix and match, and then I go to see kids from an inner city state school and tell them, to apply to Oxford and talk to them about people like me, and then I shock them at the end of chatting to them for half an hour and tell them I was at Winchester.
Rishi Sunak was privately educated and in his 20s and 30s went to the US and worked in financing. He worked for Goldman Sachs, he worked for hedge fund firms, and he even set up his own business. With his trading, he became filthy rich. In fact, if you combine his net worth with his wife's, their net worth at the moment is £651 million.
And I've got loads of money!
The most mind-boggling thing is, he's richer than a king. Yes, King Charlie is poorer than Rishi Sunak. Let that sink in. The bloody king is poorer than the Prime Minister. How the hell has this happened? What fucking universe is this? Okay, calm down, focus. Right, what else did he do? He got photobombed by Lib Dems, didn't he? Lib Dems were travelling on a boat outside where he was having afternoon tea, wasn't he? That was funny. He tried to do that other thing where Labour had no plan, but because it was a white bit of paper, Labour could just literally stick on their manifesto. Like, come on. He even had a photo op in Belfast where the Titanic was built. That ship that famously sank, and I don't really need to explain the joke any further.
Prime Minister, we are just yards away from where the Titanic was built and designed. Are you captaining a sinking ship going into this election?
So if you look at what's happened over the past few weeks alone, you can see that our plan is working. Inflation has returned to normal. Energy bills just today, we received welcome news, are falling. Wages have been rising faster than prices for 10 months, and at the beginning of this...
And all this stuff seems nuts in comparison to all the general election gaffes. I mean, every general election, and to be fair, has a gaffe. Like one gaffe you remember. Like 2010, you had Gordon Brown going around door knocking, and he visited that woman who he then called a bigot, who, to be fair, was a bigot for her views on immigration. You had Theresa May in the 2017 general election where she asked if she did anything naughty and she said she ran through fields of wheat.
What's the naughtiest thing you ever did?
Oh, goodness me. Well, I suppose the... Gosh, do you know? I'm not quite sure.
Well, there must have been a moment.
Nobody's ever perfectly behaved, are they? I mean, I have to confess, when me and my friends sort of used to run through the fields of wheat, the farmers weren't too pleased about that.
I mean, personally, up for scramping. Scramping's more fun and a bit more dangerous. He had Ed Miliband in 2015, the Ed Stone, with, all the policies he was going to enact on that massive slab of stone. But that was insane, and I'm not surprised he lost that election, to be fair. And then you had in the last general election, didn't you? You had Boris Johnson, he hid in a fridge to get away from Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan wanted to interview him live on Good Morning Britain, but Boris Johnson hid in a fridge.
I only have 5 minutes. You're live on Good Morning Britain. Could you talk to Piers and Susanna for me?
I'll be with you in a second.
Yeah, I have an earpiece here in my hands, ready to go. Right, he's been taken inside, into the freezer.
You've gone into the fridge?
There's a bunker.
It's very heroic work,
had so far, isn't it?
That was heroic work.
To be fair, I would also do the same. So Rishi Sunak has done so bad that Reform UK, a party that didn't even exist 2 or 3 years ago, is now near level with him on the polls. That party that has toad-faced Nigel Farage in charge and Richard Trice, who just looks like a weird Bond villain? Yeah, those two guys. And they're somehow ranking quite well in polls, and even in front of the Lib Dems. Nigel Farage, who's failed to become an MP for 7 times, but will probably become MP this time round, who was on I'm Celebrity last year, drinking snails and guts in a milkshake. I thought that was his diet, to be fair, before he even went on there. Now, all of this mess has fueled further speculation that Labour will get a super majority in the next general election. I mean, they were ranking quite highly in the polls anyway, and they just really had to do nothing to basically win the next general election. I know they've had their own inviting. I mean, the stuff about Jeremy Corbyn, Diane Abbott and other candidates who've been deselected because they're not the right Labour candidate. The situation with the Tories is so insane that you've even got ministers going on TV and basically saying, don't hand Labour a supermajority, vote Conservative instead. Not only have the last 14 years been difficult for many people, but you've had, COVID, Partygate, cost of living crisis, everything being bloody expensive, Liz Truss crashing the economy off the cliffs of Dover. I mean, these things stick in people's memories, and that's why the Conservatives are in a position they are now. But Rishi Sunak's performance and his general gaffes are just accelerating it even further. And the impact of this general election so far has been so bad that even ministers are looking like they're going to lose their seats. Like Penny Mordaunt, you know, someone who was seen by many as the next Tory leader, she could lose her seat. And there's others as well. It's absolutely insane. And if this campaign hasn't been bad enough, 2 Tory candidates have been investigated over betting the date of the general election. You know, that general election that Rishi Sunak said will be in the autumn, don't worry about it. But people found out anyway, that's going to be July 4th. Craig Williams, who stands to be an MP in Wales, admits he put a flutter on the general election a few weeks ago, and he had been contacted by the Gambling Commission. Laura Saunders, who stands to be an MP in the Bristol North West seat, has also admitted to placing a bet on the general election date. She's also married to the party's Director of Campaigns. Now, since recording the bulk of this video, Craig Williams and Laura Saunders have both been dropped by the Conservatives at the upcoming election. They still will appear on the ballot paper, but they won't be representing the Tories. There's also been more Conservatives under investigation by the gambling watchdog for allegedly placing a suspicious bet on a general election date. Alongside this, Tory candidate Philip Davis bet against himself for the election, placing an £8,000 bet on losing his marginal seat of Shipley. It isn't just the Tories having a flutter on election, as Labour candidate Kevin Craig bet on himself not to win the central Suffolk and North Ipswich seat. He has also been suspended by the Labour Party after the Gambling Commission launched an investigation into him. How self-degrading is it that you've placed a bet against your own success? So, you know when I said people didn't actually know the date of the general election? It turns out people actually did. The latest revelations forced the Tories to delete a tweet saying, "If you bet on Labour, you can never win." I'm fairly certain there is someone who's trying to ruin the Tories from within, and that's usually Labour's job. While Rishi Sunak has been sabotaged in his own campaign, other party leaders have had a lovely old time. So Ed Davies had a great time. He's gone on a roller coaster, he's gone on a massive slip and slide, he did a wheelbarrow race. He's had a lovely time. He's basically had a holiday and claimed on expenses.
Oh my God.
So we're getting closer to polling day on July 4th. The Tories are going to probably implode harder than the Hindenburg. Labour's probably going to get that supermajority the polls keep talking about. Ed Davies enjoying skydiving across the country and picking up seats here and there. And Nigel Farage will probably become an MP. And we sit here and wonder why Rishi Sunak actually called this election. Did he just get fed up of being a Prime Minister and just want to go home to California? Probably yes. Is he sick of his own party? Yes. Does he want to go to the US and become a tech bro and live his life up in Silicon Valley? Yes. Hard yes. I mean, he did that interview, didn't he, with Elon Musk? That was a bit wild, wasn't it? A Prime Minister interviewing Elon Musk. So what's going to happen in the general election? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you did like this video, drop me a like below as well. It'd be much appreciated. I'm trying to get a load of likes and trying to get a load of subscribers as well. So if you do want to see more of this or check out my other videos, please hit subscribe and give me a browse on my YouTube page. Now, somewhere on this screen, there'll be a video about why ads are so bad on news websites. And here's something else you might be interested in. Take care for now.